Hola chicas, bienvenida a la estructura 1.1, Nouns and Articles, or en español, sustantivos y artículos. Ante todo means before all. So what you need to know before launching into nouns and articles in Spanish is, just like in English, nouns are used to identify people, animals, places, things, and ideas. So unlike in English, all Spanish nouns, even those that refer to things that aren't alive, have a gender. So that is, they are considered either masculine or feminine. When we say the bike, the bus, we just use the word the when it's a definite article. A definite article is the in English. Well, in Spanish, you're going to say either el or la. And now we're going to learn all the rules that will let you know whether a noun is masculine or feminine. We're going to begin and speak about nouns that refer to living things before we move on to nouns that refer to non-living objects or ideas. So, masculine words that are non-living things would end in either o, or, ista, a, ora, or ista. So you'll see that the ending ista could be for either a man or a woman, and the only way you're going to know whether the turista or tourist is a man or a woman, or whatever word that ends in ista, is by looking at the article. And it's just something that you will memorize over time as you learn your Spanish. So, let's see here. So, turista. Another word could be barista, like you see at Starbucks. Moving back here, examples of nouns ending in O could be el chico, el pasajero. Nouns ending in OR are el conductor and el profesor. And whenever a noun ends in A, you know most of the time, not always, it is a girl. So, la chica, la pasajera, la conductora, la profesora. Now I'd love to point out a quick side note. This is called lengua viva, so basically live language. Profesora and turista are cognates. We love cognates when learning new languages, words that share similar spellings and meaning in both English and Spanish. So recognizing cognates are going to help you determine the meaning of many words in Spanish. Here are some other examples of cognates. La administración, el animal, el apartamento, el cálculo, el color, la decisión, la historia, la música, el restaurante, or el or la secretario or secretaria. And a general rule of thumb is that nouns referring to males, for instance, el hombre, are masculine, while nouns that refer to females, like la mujer, are feminine. So their article, their definite article, is going to be el or la. And many nouns that refer to males are going to end in o or. Their corresponding feminine endings, like we've mentioned before, are a or ora. The masculine and feminine forms of nouns that end in ista, like turista, are the same, and we've already gone through that, but here are just some more examples. Some other nouns that have identical masculine and feminine forms would be joven, which means youth, like you all are youth. So it could be el joven if it's a man or a boy, and it could be la joven if it's a young woman, like yourselves. El estudiante, la estudiante. Those are exactly the same words. It's just indicated by the article, whether it's a man or a male or female. Back to the cognates, one thing to mention that's probably important is under this ayuda, which means help. Cognates can certainly be really helpful, but sometimes you have to watch out and be careful for what are called false cognates. So those are words that have similar spellings in English and Spanish, but they mean different things. Like la carpeta is your file folder or binder. El or la conductora is a driver, not a conductor. And el éxito is success, and fábrica is a factory, not fabric. So these two here are not your vocabulary words, but they're just good to know. Okay, now I'd love to run through the nouns that refer to non-living things. As mentioned before, they are considered masculine or feminine still, even though they're not living. So many masculine nouns are going to end in O, just like before with the living things. And then this is something where it could be tricky, but I'm going to teach you a tool to help remember this. Nouns that end in MA are actually masculine. So you always have to look for that MA, since most of the nouns that end in A are feminine, but when you see this MA at the end of a word, it's masculine. And a good way to remember that is masculine starts with MA. And so it's a nice remembering tool. But el problema y el programa, those both end in A. And then nouns that end in S are typically masculine as well. El autobús, el país. Now moving on to the feminine nouns that are not living. Ending in A, just like before, la cosa, la escuela, la computadora, la maleta, la palabra, and then nouns ending in C-I-O-N with the accent over the O, la lesión, la conversación. If it ends in C-I-O-N, you know it's going to be feminine. And then D-A-D, or dad. Nacionalidad, la comunidad, those are going to be feminine. And so one way to remember that, students in the past have said they remember it because your dad is masculine, but it's going to be the opposite of what you think it's going to be. Not sure if that's more confusing or not, but that's a good way to remember it to me. So we've covered a lot of this information here, but I'm just going to point out one last thing. And the reason to memorize the gender is that there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. Just like they have exceptions to the rule in the English language grammar. For example, el mapa, a map, you would think that it'd be feminine because it ends in A, but it's actually masculine. And el día, you've heard both of these words probably a few times in my class at this point. La mano ends in O, so you'd think it's masculine, but it's actually feminine. So it's just a few of those exceptions to the rule. Now, to form the plural of a noun or a sustantivo, add S to the nouns that end in a vowel. Nouns that end in a consonant, you're going to add ES. And then last, nouns that end in Z, change the Z to C, and then add the ES. So el chico becomes los chicos, el diario, los diarios, el problema, los problemas. So those all end in a vowel, so you just pop S on at the end. And then nacionalidad, it ends in a consonant, so you're going to add ES, nacionalidades, el país, los países, and then an example of when a Z turns to C, it's el lápiz, it turns into los lápices. In general, when a singular noun has an accent mark on the last syllable, the accent is dropped in the plural form. So right here, la lesión becomes las lesiones. El autobús becomes autobuses without the accents. Use the masculine plural form to refer to a group that includes both males and females. Teaching in an all-girls school, I always have very interesting reactions to this because when there are two girls and one boy involved, it's still in the plural form is going to become masculine. Examples of that is un pasajero, dos pasajeras, tres pasajeros. So if you had two female passengers and one male, when you put them all together for the plural form, it's still going to be masculine because there's one boy involved.